Hello and welcome to a very special Get in Tune. I'm coming live from INBEON CON. The virtual con happened this weekend. If this is your first one on here, thank you for finding me on here. It is they've been having a great show today. If you haven't had a chance, just go on INBEON.com and go to their cons section, and you'll see some really great stuff. We have a bunch of panels going today and tomorrow. It is a 2-day show, and today I'll be talking about animating in Photoshop. I was just finishing setting up Photoshop, and I'm bringing a friend of mine on today. His name is Don Smith. He's a writer. He's a comic creator. Really good guy, and I brought him on. I want to bring him on because, first of all, people should know who this guy is if you don't already know his work. Secondly, though, he doesn't really have a huge background in animation, and I wanted to have someone on to kind of not let me just ramble on constantly if I'm going over people's heads or whatever. This way I have someone to kind of reel me in. So, and Don's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine. We talk all the time. And again, people should know his stuff. So let me bring him on. We'll learn quickly about Don, and then we're going to get straight into animation. Hello.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me on. This is real great. And also want to thank everybody out there watching. And this is so great, dude. This is my first official virtual con that I've been to. So I think these things, we're going to see more of these in the future. And these are just going to be great and just a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you. I agree with you. And one of the things Don's going to be doing, and I know we got a couple of comments already. One from George Medina, another great guy, has been on the show, saying looking forward to this. And INBEON, who's putting on the show, says thank you for doing the paneling. Aaron Donnelly says this is going to be great. I'm saying I'm animation in Photoshop, so I'm pretty looking forward. Oh, I animate in Adobe, so I'm looking forward to see how you do it in Photoshop. Don's going to be handling most of the comments, so I can just focus on the drawing today and reading them to me as they come up. But before we go live with the animation, Don, well, we are live. I mean, before we do the animation part of this, can you just tell people a little bit about the books you've done and where they can find them if they're still out?
Oh yeah, sure. I was focusing in on comic books for a very long time, and I write them under the name of Opinion Comics. And you can go to opinioncomics.com and see them. I publish them through Drive-Thru, and I've also published them through Wham Bang. Kablam. I'm sorry. I published them through Kablam and their online site, Indie Planet. And basically, I like to focus in on horror, the paranormal, the unusual. That's always been my thing that I've really enjoyed. And when I'm not doing that, I'm writing true crime. Right now, I'm working on my second true crime book. I'm constantly writing short stories and horror and stuff. And those have been my focus. And as for why would I have an interest in animation? Because, well, honestly, Mike, one of the things that you and I have in common, and we talk about all the time, you and I basically watched the same cartoons when we were growing up.
Yes.
Yes. Big Hanna-Barbera fan. What was great about Hanna-Barbera was they could do something goofy on one side where you would have, oh, here's my buddy Basil saying hello. On one hand, somebody like an organization like Hanna-Barbera could have something wacky and crazy like Yogi Berra, Magilla Gorilla, where they draw the characters with bigger nose, bigger eyes, that type of thing. And then they could turn around and do something more serious, like Space Ghost. And this was long before the Space Ghost Coast to Coast. This was they took him very seriously. And the artwork of Alex Toth, he drew a more serious style. with that.
Yes.
Like I would compare him more to George Perez, Neil Adams as a style of artist, as opposed to, like what you would see in just about any wacky cartoon or something like that, where people have like the big noses and wacky hair and stuff. So,
all right. Well, I'm glad that you're a fan too, because we'll be chatting, I guess, about that stuff as well. Before we go straight into animation, I just want to recommend for all you novices out there. There are 3 books I highly recommend. One is going to be the first one that discusses where the 12 principles of animation were first put in. The Illusion of Life by Frank and Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas here, who were 2 of Disney's 9 old men. Fantastic book. It's expensive, it's in this is what, a $60 book, I think, but fun read for animation fans. The other one, this book here, should be any animator's Bible. It's called The Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams. Richard Williams is, he passed away, I think, this past year. But he was, he worked, Roger Rabbit is, one of the biggest things he's known for, but this guy knows his stuff. Everything you need is in there. And then the last one, done by one of my favorite animators, written Eric Goldberg. If you're interested in character animation, this is stuff. This is a book, character animation crash course. It's basically stuff they don't always teach you in the schools, and things he learned on his way. All right, so we've got a few more comments.
I did want to bring up something.
Yeah,
I did want to bring up something that I like what Aaron Donnelly said, that you can buy them used.
Yes.
And that's a very good thing. It's one of those things you can get them off of eBay. Probably you could even do go to Goodreads, or there's like Abe Books or something like that. So that's a really good thing, because really, honestly, what artist is rolling in money? So
exactly.
Actually, and that leads me to my first question, if I could ask. I know you're about to work on Photoshop, but
I'm going to bring that in right now.
Okay. Is there an open source type of program out there that people could practice in, or is there, like, for lack of a better term, like a free alternative that Photoshop offers or something?
Well, no, I don't know about Photoshop offering a free. Adobe kind of likes their money, but there is a program called Open TOONs, which is an open source program, basically set up the same format that Studio Ghibli uses to create their animated cartoons. I've used it in the past, but I do have some issues with my Mac and Cintiq out, with the update. So I'm going to test it again, because I really do enjoy Open TOONs. I did like working on it. But I know, what is it? Is it called Krita? It's a illustration program, free, program that has animation in there. But if you're going to pay for it, the most common used today in the industry is Toon Boom Harmony. They also have a program called Storyboard and a program called Producer, and all 3 go together, and you can put cartoons together that way. I like to draw in Photoshop, which is why I like to animate in it too. You can also animate in Clip Studio Paint, which I haven't done yet, and Procreate, which I haven't done yet. But you could also animate in one of my favorite programs, and I do get knocked a little bit for it these days, but it's Adobe Animate, which used to be called Adobe Flash. But I've been using it since it was a Macromedia Flash back in the 90s, so I just love the software. But why don't we just jump in? Okay. And the first thing now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to basically talk about just some principles of animation. There were 12 principles defined by Frank and Ollie, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but some of the important ones that we do, or that we're going to use in this. And I'm going to just use right now the basic bouncing ball piece. And if there's time, or I'll even show how I could use that to turn it into a character in a way, or how I can use it. Now, what was every program has something a little different. So in Photoshop, we got to start by getting the animation window up, which is where timeline here it's called. And there's a couple of different timelines. I use the video timeline, I believe that is the one I use, right? Great. Yep. Now, in here, every time I create a new layer or a new frame, okay, if I create a new layer in my layer palette, you see it creates a new level in here. So I can create backgrounds and do all this stuff. But up in my actions panel, which it should be right there, I have an animation piece here. It's called On Twos. So if I just click on that and hit the play button, you're going to see a smaller one that popped up in the timeline. Now, actions, I don't use actions very often in Photoshop, but I'll show you how to create it very quickly. All right. So you're going to hit the record button. And well, first I'm going to do a new one here. So new I'm just going to call it default, click record. So the record is going. And basically, I'm just going to create a new layer. And I'm going to drag this in here. And if I have to zoom in, I will. And it's not letting me zoom in on here. It might be just how my stylus is taking it. There we go. And go down to 2 frames. Then I hit stop. Now I have an action in here, and that action is right here. And if I click play, a new action has been added. Now, the reason I went on 2s is because I tend to animate, and you can see if I do that, if I go undo, it undoes the steps in here. But I'm just going to go back to here and delete those. All right. The reason I animate on 2s is because I tend to animate at 24 frames per second. And in this panel here, this little window I click on, I could adjust things. So adjust my work area, date, time, loop playback. You know, I could do all this stuff. I could turn on my onion skin, which I'll do eventually, render the video, panel options. So there's lots of different different options here. I'm sorry, I have a siren going on in the background. I hope you're not hearing that. It was throwing me off for a second. But since I animate on 24 frames, I don't want, I tend to draw on 2s, which means every picture is held for 2 frames. Okay. And that means I can draw 12 pictures instead of 24 and get my movement done correctly. So for now, I'm going to start.
Is that 24 frames per second?
Yep. That means every time you look at 1 second of animation, 24 pictures have gone by, which is traditional. And you could do something like 30, which is actually the default, I think, in most programs these days for television. But you can animate like in, films will do 60 frames for like, fast car chases and things. You could go higher, you can go lower. Internet sometimes will work at 10 to 15. There's people who work at 12. So it's a matter of what you're animating for. I kind of like the traditional. So for the bouncing ball, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this frame I made. This isn't the animation frame. This is the long frame. This is going to stay out for my complete animation until I turn it off. Right? And what I want to do on here is I'm going to and I'll do it in black and then I'll lighten my layer, is draw my arc, right? So this line, this is kind of my template where my ball is going to be falling on, and I'll lower the opacity on it so we can just see it. Now when I come in and I'll choose a different color here, let's just choose like a red so we can see it. And I'm going to start right here. So one thing I wanted to add to this is the ground, okay, where it's going to hit. And I always kind of create a path for myself. All right. And in this, we're going to really focus on time. Okay. And squash, and stretch. These right now are the two important pieces for here. There is another which I'll bring up later, but animation is all about time. If you're, even if you're not animating a character, if you're animating something to move across the screen, how long does a commercial have to play for? How long do you have to do something? You're trying to make somebody laugh. There is something there to make, it takes the time. You want to make someone cry. When's that moment that you're going to get that person to feel that way, to cry,
Give me 1 second. I want to get something because I think it has something to do with what you're talking about.
Okay, go for it. I'm going to just start real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my ball at the top. Oops. Let me turn off the guides. When you hit the guides, they flatten out like that. Where is it? View. Extras off. Okay. So now when I draw, I'm drawing a circle for the ball. I'm starting it at the top. The idea is it's going to fall, it's going to hit at the bottom, and then it's going to spring off.
Okay, so I've got a ball here, and this is helping me understand. Essentially, what you're going to draw is this squashing, and then bouncing up.
Yeah, but I'm not bouncing it straight up. I'm arcing it out.
Right. That's what I mean. I'm sorry. It was like this, then like that.
Yes. Okay. And it's going to be the reason we squash and stretch is to create the illusion of gravity. Okay, how things would react with gravity.
Right, but doesn't that and that also adds a little bit of drama, and I use drama in quotes here. Adds a little bit of drama to what it is that you're doing. So, because this is what the ball's naturally looks like, and what you're doing is giving the illusion that, again, just simple laws of physics. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. You should also add that what you are doing is a tutorial to the non-animated. The non-animated inclined is what you're doing here. So thank you.
You're very welcome. So what I'm going to do now is there's another principle called frame by frame animation or pose to pose. Frame by frame is when I draw the next frame and then the next frame, everything kind of sequentially, right? I don't animate that way. I'm a pose to pose animator for the most part because it helps me plan out my movements a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on my actions for the number 2 on 2s. I'm going to hit play, and it creates it above it, but I want to move it just right onto the side. So now if I turn on my onion skin.
Can you explain exactly what the onion skin is?
Absolutely. As soon as I find where my actual, because I see the settings. Let me just see something. So yeah, I got that. 1. Yep, I'm only doing, okay. So now I should just be able to go on to here and get my onion skin, but it doesn't have just onion skin ready to play, which is weird. Is this a glitch in Photoshop right now? Show. Huh. Okay, well, I don't technically need it with my experience, but, enable. Oh, it is already enabled. I'm sorry. I usually keep it checked off. Okay, so what onion skin means is if I drag, okay, you can see how it's faded out now. It went from being bright here to being faded. So it allows me to see what's going on before. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it a lot, and I'm going to stretch it out. Okay, and that may not be the perfect place for it, but it kind of gives me an idea right now. Okay. And then I'm going to add another one on. So it comes right after. This will be my squash. And if I have to erase, I'll erase. Okay. And then I'll add another one on. And it'll kind of stretch out here, right? Until I get to my last one where it should be about the same size. Okay? So I've gone, you can see it move, right? Seeing the movement?
Oh, weird. This almost reminds me of like blinking Christmas lights, kind of showing like how if you had like a string of green lights and each one, the next one blinked, while
Yeah.
the others remained off. It looks like that green light is traveling back and forth up and down the road, kind of like a kit at the
Yeah.
kind of like kit or the Cylon thing,
Mhm.
the type of stuff. So it's kind of working on that principle.
Yes. So I'm going to turn the onion skin off for a second. And if I just turn that off, and if I was to play it real quick, it's going to go really fast. Like you didn't even notice it probably how fast it went, right? Because I'm at 10 frames and I'm going at 24 per second. So I got to make this feel like it's actually falling. A ball won't fall that quick and jump that many spots. So let me explain just really quick. So number one, I said timing was important. Number two, squash and stretch. So a stretch is happening is because it's being pulled to the earth. It's being pulled down. The squash happens when it hits the ground. All right. And one of the things we're trying to do throughout the whole thing is keep this uniform in size. So that is the first picture that I have. So my ball, when it's in its resting pose, should always be kind of around that size. And I know the last one here, I made it a little bigger. So I'm just going to erase that and just kind of estimate it a bit. And which that was more about size. So the squash and the stretch kind of has to fit with that ball too. I can't overdo it or, make it too small or too big, because it has to still look like that same ball in movement. Now we have another thing, and I'm going to put it right here. And another principle is called slow in and slow out, meaning we're adding more frames to certain areas to add the speed of how something's moving. Okay, so a slow in would be, or a slow out would be here. Let me add another frame. So it went to the end, but I can just drag it and put it where I want it, which would be right there. Did it move? Hold on. It should just be, come on, drag it. And did it go? Yes, now I think it moved. Wait, did I? Oh, something. Problem with Photoshop, it's always a little glitchy to me. Okay, so let me add another onto, here we go. There it is. And I'm going to take that layer 9, and I'm going to just drag, it's not letting me drag it over. Okay, I'm going to do it this way then. I'm going to take these, this will work this way, and just move it over a bit, and then bring it in. I don't know why it's doing that. Usually I've dropped it in before. And then I can bring it back in.
So essentially what you're doing, and I know that I'm being very basic with this, and it's almost like kind of like a flip book type of thing, but what you're doing is that it's sort of like drawing one, then you put layer 2 on top of that, which is the ball in another part. Then the layer 3 is the ball lower. Layer 4 would be the ball hitting the ground. Layer 5 would be the ball kind of squashing, and then layer 6 would be a kind of like jumping back up. Is that kind of what you're doing here?
Kind of. I mean, but I'll do, being a pose to pose animator, it's like drawing 1 and then, say 9, and then go back and do the middle for, which would probably be maybe say at 5, and then where does 2, 3, and 4 go, and then 6, 7, 8 go. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm bringing it back, you see. So I'm creating a slow out, so it's falling out a little slower. I'm adding more frames to it. So I want to go back, and I'm leaving them kind of close. See how I'm overlapping here?
Yes.
The drawing. So it's not moving as fast as it could be. So, and I'm just going to drag these out a little bit more since I'm having that little glitch issue right now.
This is like how in the 1980s, I remember that they were 70s and 80s when they would draw the Barry Allen Flash. It wouldn't just be like Flash running, like a picture of him running with like the lines. You would actually see in some of the things that they would do, Flash in one spot with like 6 different drawings of the Flash in different poses in one panel. As if he was, like in one part of the panel, he's making breakfast. Another part, he's doing his taxes. And another part, he's folding laundry, that type of thing.
Yeah. So let me come back over here, and I hate that it does that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now in my next drawing is I'm going to start the stretch. I'm not going to make it really long right now, but I want that stretch to start. Actually, I think I did too much, so let me erase that. And this is, and honestly, for those people who have never animated before, this is a big part of animating. We're trying to figure out, you know, size relations and drawing over and over and over again, right? So it's starting to...
You're not making mistakes. You're making happy accidents.
All the time. And I want this now to drop faster. So on this one, I'm just going to use my arrow tool and pull it down. Okay, so I want this to be a faster drop.
Actually, let me ask a serious question along those lines.
Yeah.
How important is it for animators to be patient with not just their program, but with themselves? Like them going, like the first time out, I can't imagine that you were that, like you were not as good as what you are now. Is it?
Oh yeah, no, I was terrible.
Do people need to cut themselves a lot of slack when it comes to this?
You know what? The thing with animation, it could take you maybe, I would say, oh, I lowered the brush size. I don't want that. Animation takes about, I would say, maybe a good year to 2 years to really learn how to animate, and then another, depending on what you're doing, 5 years or so to really master it. You know?
Right.
So it takes time, and that comes like with any art form. You know, you know, as an artist, I think we're all kind of what's the word I'm looking for? We all kind of, you know, we're all self-deprecating, I guess, is a good way to say it.
Right.
You know, we look at ourselves and we're like, well, this could have been better here, but is this the one I'm looking for?
I would think that the big thing is just, hey, don't give up on this. This is the type of thing. If you want to do this, keep doing it. You're going to get good. Just be patient with yourself and be patient with the craft. If this doesn't work out, you're going to figure out what does work with your animation.
Yeah.
Because that's the other great thing about this art form is that it strikes me that there is no wrong way of doing it. I mean, like earlier you were talking about the programs, and Aaron Donnelly, who is, I'm ruining the name there, Aaron Donnelly brought up Clip Studio, Paint, SM Animation, Toon Boom, Procreate, and that's the type of thing. Just people need to be reminded, hey, don't give up. You got this. You're going to learn it. It takes a lot of patience, and be kind to yourself. The world needs good animators.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm just, what I was doing was I was deleting something because I was having another glitch. And what I want to do is bring this to a slow in. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what that means is, like I did the slow out before. So I'm on the other drawing here. And now I'm just going to slow in the piece here.
Gotcha. Now, eventually, are you going to get rid of the line that looks like a backwards check mark? I know that that's kind of your guideline. You're going to get rid of that eventually, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do, and I'll do it right now. So what I'll do is I'll turn that off. All right. Let me go to the first one here and just erase those words so they're not in there. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is, let me just go over here, grab this. I got to bring my Photoshop file up a little bit. Give me 1 second. You would think having a great Cintiq size, a 27-inch Cintiq size, would not be an issue. You know, when I'm drawing on the screen, but I have stuff popping up that, where'd that go? What I'm doing is I'm just closing in the timeline now so it doesn't scroll out all over the place.
Yeah. Aaron is kind enough to say that it doesn't, basically kind enough to forgive me for getting their name wrong, and also it was mentioned that Affinity has some animation as well.
Yes, Affinity. I'm not too familiar with the software yet. I want to learn more about it. The reason I haven't switched over to any Affinity programs is professionally, I use Photoshop. I use the Adobe suite. I do use Clip Studio to draw in. If I need to do publishing or anything, I'm in InDesign. So for me, that software, I'm not comfortable enough to say I'm ready to jump to Affinity software until I know there's something I'll be comfortable with. So what I'm going to do now with I'm just going to watch it real quick for myself this way. And this is what we call scrubbing. And we would be flipping through pages right now if we were doing this on paper. So I'm going to turn off my onion skin, and I'm just going to hit play, and we're going to just watch it loop. And you can see now having that slow in, it's not as fast there. It kind of feels a little bit more like you're just letting go of the ball and it's dropping. And then it has that quickness that it builds up to. Now, I don't know if I'm looking at it right now. I don't know if I need one of those frames in there.
It seems like you would, because it just seems like right now it's making triangles. And I know that what's going on with it, it's just re-looping itself over and over again, like a GIF you'd see on Instagram. So,
yeah.
Oh, by the way, Aaron commented and said, Mike is a pro and he invested the time to get there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, so, I mean, there are things I would do to touch it up. I mean, whoops, hold on. Let me see if I can find the frame. This frame is bothering me the most. I don't know if it's how I drew it, got a little heavy, too straight of lines, or if it's a really needed frame right now, you know? Mm-hmm. So for me, that's what I might play with. So let me enable onion skin. Let me go back to this frame. I want to go closer to this one here. I'm going to erase it. And what I want to do is I want to bring it up into the ball a little bit more, but I want to still keep more of the roundness to it. All right.
Now, where the ball hits the ground, if you wanted to add, say, like dust popping up or something, like it's hit a pile of dust or something, would that then at that point in time become like frames 10, 11, 12? Or would you go back and say, like, when it hits the ground, when it squishes that frame 6, do you then add a 6.1 and a 6.2?
You could, you could hold the frame, but in a bouncing ball or anything bouncing, you don't want to hold the squash too long because it throws off the drawing. So what I could do, and I don't know if you guys can see in here. Yes. So what I have here is once I start creating a line across here, frame by frame, it holds in a folder called Video Group 1. You can change the name if you want, but there's a little arrow and I can close it up, right? And now I could create a new action above, all right? And I would have to line it up with what I want to line it up with here. And I might even put it a little bit before it, kind of like in between here. So it starts, but I'm going to put it right here for now. And on this frame, and I'll use another color so you can see the difference. Let's go to like a bluish, right? All right. I could have a little, what I'll do is I'll have a little thing. Let's just do this instead of smoke right now. So like when it hits, it does that. Now I could play with it, bringing it in a little bit, because here, if I do that, it hasn't hit. So I'm going to try to bring it halfway in between if this lets me here, which I had before. There we go. So now it's going to come in between. And then if I do another one right here, which starts off above, bring it down, I could, while it's here, push them out even a little farther, but make them smaller. You see that? So,
right.
So why don't we just watch it real quick, see what that looks like. All right. So that doesn't look too bad. you know, but
That's
it's quick.
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that's one file here. One thing we can do, and I'm going to save this really quick, and I'm just going to call it. I don't want it in that folder. Put it on the desktop for now. Call it bouncing. All right, and if I wanted to export it, I could come over to here and render video. Did it not pop up on the screen? Okay, this little black arrow, or is there a little feedback here? You know, and if you
see it. I will be.
You don't see it. Okay. In the timeline, there's.
I've got bad eyes, so that's me.
Okay. In the timeline, in the corner where there's the little, I think it's 4 little lines. That means there's more panels and options under here. So if I go click on that and go to render video, it's going to give me. It's going to take a moment. It's going to ask me, and you guys can't see it because it's on another screen, but it's going to ask me, you know, what setting do I want to use and the format, which I always choose, unless I'm told not to, I choose H.264, which is great for YouTube and all that stuff. And it saves it as an MP4 and asks me where I want to save it. Do I want to do the whole frame or just the work area? So these are 21 frames I got here. So I can click, just the work area, and that bouncing ball will just do the frames that I've chosen. But I'm going to cancel that for now. All right.
George Medina said you can almost hit the boing when you add those action lines.
Oh, absolutely. I could. That's later when you render the video, and you bring it into an editing software. You can add that little boing right to it.
Right.
And
right.
You would that's a later piece. But yeah, that's
now. Just for argument's sake, when you're doing this, and you've got somebody in the background watching the ball bounce or something, where you're like, that would be a whole separate thing that you would have to then add later. Am I correct on that?
Another person, yes. If I had to watch a person, you know, do the ball, like look at it going down and then up, that's a whole other piece, which I could add in here. Which if I go back to the beginning frame and I add in a new layer, right? Okay, so what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to get that layer back so I can figure out my ground and where they're standing, right?
Right.
And then on this layer here that I would draw on, and now this is where it takes a lot of time. I'm going to figure out a character, which I should move them a little further back. You shouldn't be on the line here, right? And I'm just going to do something very simple right now. And I'll show you how easy this is here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep this frame. I'm going to extend this frame to the end. Then I'm going to create a new one. And this layer is going to be, and I'll change the color. This layer will be his eyes, right? And I'll do his whole face here. His eyes, his nose, his mouth. So he's looking up, right? And I might have to extend that out a bit just based on the fall. I'll probably extend it out to say here for now. Cancel that. And extend that out. Okay? So now I got his eyes here. Now I'm going to create a new one here. And the eyes are starting to come down. And I could use, let me turn on my onion skin so I could enable, place the eyes where they kind of are here. And right now, all I'm going to do is just kind of move the pupils down a bit. All right, so we're seeing, you can kind of see the movement there, right? And as the ball starts coming down, this is all I'm going to do. Is right now I'm just doing it to make it easy and change the head. But I might come down with the eyes a little bit more now and bring the nose down. And the mouth will come down a little bit. Right?
The horror fan in me wants to see the ball knock the guy's head off.
Actually, I did have a student do something like that once.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to bring this.
And then somewhere in the background you hear, there can be only one.
So I'm going to extend that out like that. And then when it gets to here, to the next frame, wait, where am I looking? There we go. So I want to be looking down here. That right there, so you see. And then it hits, right? And it's starting to come out towards him here. So let's get the eyes still down, kind of, right? And as it's coming up, I'm going to add in a little bit of... Okay, I was a little off on those eyes there, but whatever. Is this the one I just did?
It still looks pretty sweet. It
Yeah,
looks
I know.
like you're bringing two inanimate objects to life.
Okay, and now this one should be taken off. Okay, let's add that in right there. So right here, this is coming off, right? And what I'm gonna do is I want to get over back to his eyes here so I can see it better. And I'm gonna come around. I'm gonna make his mouth look a little sad. We're gonna start it being sad because now it's coming. And you're right, it's going to be coming at him. So what should he be doing? He should be looking afraid, right?
Yeah, like
so now I'm going to... Big eyes.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry, that looks great.
Thank you. And I'm going to get his eyes even kind of wider now.
You can almost hear an old Mr. Bill. Oh, no!
And then the last one, which will be right here, and I'll extend that one to the end, where his eyes are just... And eyebrows would totally help this expression, but...
His last thoughts are, I should have bought all that Plunger Pup comics back in the day.
That is a definite tongue twister. I never realized that when I created Plunger Pup. I've said Plunger Plup so many times.
Plunger Plup.
So let's turn off the onion skin and let's play it out here. And why isn't it playing? There we go. So if I was actually animating him, eyebrow movements would go, his ears would move, hair would move.
Right.
You know, I would actually even move his body a bit because, you know, moving the face, moving a face like that, especially for, you know, an emotion, you have to move the body too. It's just one of those things. We're not stiff. We don't just stand there, you know.
Right.
If you're just standing there watching something coming at you, you have something wrong with you. You know, I think personally, I think I would, you know, move out of the way or just be scared, start putting my hands up. Like I see George commented, one would look like if he closed his eyes, bracing for impact, for the hit. And that would be the next step. As it's coming at him, his arms would be coming up, trying to cover his head.
Right.
And you're right. His eyes would close because that's what happens when something's about to hit you, or at least when you see it coming, you know.
Right. Exactly. So. I was going to say, and years ago, when Christopher Reeve was still alive, and after he had his accident, and like during the .com boom, they were doing a thing where they showed Christopher Reeve's head. They animated Christopher Reeve's head on somebody walking, and it looked so unnatural because the normal person is breathing in, breathing out in unison with their lungs, and that wasn't the case. it was Christopher Reeve's head is a separate unit from the guy's body that was walking around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we got about 10 minutes left. I'm going to end 5 minutes. I'm not going to end exactly at 2 because INBEON CON is having so much fun stuff. I want you to be ready to get on to the next panel and give you a few minutes to use the bathroom or get something to eat or drink while you watch the next panel. So, but I want to just talk about one other thing. But Erin, I see one more comment. Let me see. It says, so this is the first pass. How do you get the lines to a point before you color so you can desaturate? Okay. Well, that's another complete layer, and that's tracing. So let me stop this, and I'll just give you an example on one page here. So let me stop, and I'll use this. So now, okay, I got all these video groups, and I like to name my video groups so I know them, but for today, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to go to the beginning here. I'm at the start, and I'm going to create a new picture, and this one's going to go out this long. I'm going to choose, let's say, black, because that's the color I want my character to be. I might lower all the opacities on everything if it's going to give me an issue. And then I'm going to choose the brush that I like. And why aren't my brushes? Okay, and I think for this brush, for something clean, I do have, I told you guys can go if you're on what do they call it? If you're on Photoshop, you have access to the Kyle T brushes, but so I bought a bunch of them before he made his deal with Adobe. So I have this one brush I like called Thick to Thin, and I use this to ink my comics a lot. And what I'll just do is I'll zoom in on an area, move this over, and I will turn on my brush, and I need to be on the right layer here. And
I didn't realize you could do a close-up on that.
Oh yeah, I do. I draw, especially when I ink my comics, I ink very close. The more you zoomed in, the cleaner line you'll be. It'll be a steadier line.
Okay.
And if I need to rotate, I will rotate the page. But for something like this, I'm not going to do it right now. At least I say that, and then watch me. I'll do it in a moment. And I'm going to finish up this character a little bit more, just so you have that complete image that you're looking for, Erin. And because it's black, I'm going to just, color it in like that.
Kind of reminds me of Butters.
From South Park?
South Park, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey there, fellas. Micah's going to be awfully sore at me if I don't animate this the right way.
And
dude, you're getting compliments in there. Nerds of the Round said this was awesome. Aaron said thanks. Even George liked what you're doing.
Thank you. So I'm just going to be drawing that. Or I don't like the way I did the head there. It's a little small.
It's more Charles Schultzy.
Yeah. Well, this is why I rotate when I draw. So I'm just going to have that. I'm going to have his eyebrows
put a
there.
black robe on him. It looks like Cousin It. Or Uncle Fester. Sorry.
Uncle Fester. So I'm just going to draw out my character. And, I would draw all this clean. I might even clean this up in another color on another layer, because my first pass is really usually just me kind of getting an idea. And I'm going to come around. I'm going to come around on here, come around on here, bring it in. All right, let's give him some pant legs. Okay, so this is my first character.
That hand that you did so simply is really cool.
Thank you. So now what happens is the coloring. And I'm not going to animate each one, but what I would do is I'd go to the next one, right? And I would ink that, and I would ink that just exactly how I did. Now for coloring, what I would do is I'm going to turn off that, the video stuff. What's it? This one? Where is it? What did I do? Oh, okay. I see what I'm doing. Okay. So that was the background for that. So I'm going to ink that, right? Now to color, I'm going to add another another layer, right? But I'm going to put this layer, and by the way, I label all my layers. I'm not doing it right now for time, but I would come underneath and bring it under. Whoops, I put in the wrong one. Sorry. I want to move layer 28, which I got to do in my layer palette. Sorry, under 27. Okay, and then I start choosing my colors. So if he's going to have, I don't know, this color for a shirt, what I tend to do is I tend to select an area just to go quickly. And if I have to come in and edit stuff, oh, dang it, I hit the wrong button. That happens all the time. Here.
I imagine that when you're doing something like this, it's easier to work with solid colors, like a solid blue
Absolutely.
shirt, as opposed to a like drawing plaid type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like the only person I've seen is like say SpongeBob or Patrick, where Patrick's got the flower on his butt and his leg, trying to animate that. I imagine would get a bit much.
Well, you know, I haven't animated for Nick. I don't know what software they do, but you know, some programs allow you to color patterns in and have more options, you know.
Yeah.
So I can't say for a fact that this is how. Oh, I hit the wrong button again. This is what happens when you hit the button on your stylist.
Right. Well, with these bigger studios, like if you know, when you're doing something like South Park, which back in the day, you know, it was all construction paper. Now
that was
just
that was only the first thing they did. They've been using computers basically since the beginning of the show. It's the software that changed, and I know that for a while they were using Maya, which is what like Toy Story is modeled in, or at least was at one point. And what happened was they just rendered it out in like a 2D thing. That's why they can do all these great 3D pieces. The only thing I'm going to just add here, by the way, and this is for Erin. So I would color this whole thing, right? And I'm not going to finish coloring him for time. But if I needed to, I could create a new piece here. And I'm going to choose something kind of in like a dark purplish color. And I tend to use my pen tool, but I'm not going to use the pen tool for this. For you guys who haven't used the pen tool, it's just a thing you can come around and make shapes and turn them into selections and stuff, right? I do that so I have exact selections, but I'm going to do this right now this way for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go to the layer below it, use the magic wand, select the shirt for now, right? Go back to that layer, and with the purple in a bigger brush size, I'm going to come in, and I usually use like a very dark with even black mixed in it, right? But now I'm going to create the shadows. Let's see where the shadows would be on the oh, that's not selected. So I'm just going to do that on the shirt for now, right? And then I lower the opacity. And then this is basically cell shading. So I would prefer, so let me just change the color a little bit, because I prefer my colors to be kind of like down in this area here, right? And I'm just going to change that color here, and then I come in and lower my opacity. And there you go, is cell shading. And I'll zoom in on it a bit, so you can see that's a little too much. But this is my process when I work in, actually this is my process when I work in any software. If I'm using Adobe Animate, I layer. I got my first, sometimes it's a skeleton just to get the movement. Then I use then I'll build out like kind of like, you know, shapes to kind of form the character. And then I'll do design have the character's features. I might do a cleanup, and then I'll do the ink. So that could be 5 layers just for one character. and you're doing a lot of poses. I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of cleanup.
Right.
You have to have the patience and the love of animation. I mean, I love comics and animation. You know, comic strips over comic books. I've said this a dozen times, but animation is always, I think, my go-to. I always return to it no matter what I'm doing. So
you are a real whiz at comic
Thank
strips.
you.
That's all.
Thank you very much. At the Wiz Comic on Instagram, guys. But I got to wrap up. So, you know, because I want to get a few month break before you go to the next panel. Just quickly, down at the bottom, scrolling throughout, has been our social media. Don Smith writes 01 on Instagram, and you can find me everywhere else. So you just type in Michael Grassi and you'll find me. I want to thank you guys, for everyone, for tuning in. I want to thank Don for hanging out with me. It's always fun time chatting with him. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday on my Getting Tuned video. I'll have a great guest. Look for the ads later today on Facebook and Instagram. I will see you guys soon. All right. And again, thanks, Don.
No problem. You know what? Next time, let's combine both our interests. Get yourself a Ouija board and let's have Walt Disney on as a guest.
We'll see if I could do that.
Oh, wait,
right.
No, wait. I'm sorry. He's frozen under the magic castle.
No, let's not go that way. Let's not do that. We're going to get going, man. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of INBEON CON. All right. Bye, guys. Okay.